Welcome back. Let's continue with our lecture on general theory of relativity. Last video, we have seen one of the exact solution to Einstein's equation, that is the Schwarzschild solution. Today, we will cover the geometry of Schwarzschild space-time and then study the particle motion, both the time-like and null part. This is a part of course PH4205 at IISER Calc. Schwarzschild solution. This is the first non-trivial exact solution to Einstein's equation with the spherical symmetry. The solution was given by Carl Schwarzschild, and the space-time metric in the polar coordinate is given by ds square is equal to 1 minus 2m by r dt square minus 1 by 1 minus 2m by r dr square minus r square d theta square minus r square sine square theta d phi square. So the last part of the metric represents the geometry of a sphere, and this is a time which is r, and this is the radial coordinate which is also r. So the geometry here is essentially r cross s2, and that is what we have is a spherical symmetry. Now you can see immediately from the metric that the metric component g00 blow up as r goes to m, or dt square coefficient, that is g00 goes to 0 as r goes to m. So here again I would like to impress upon, we use the unit of mass to measure the distance. We can use time as well, because we have set g is equal to 1 and c is equal to 1. This allows us to use one unit to measure space, time and mass. So this is why we measure distances in terms of m. Now the point to understand here is the singularity at r is equal to 2m is a coordinate singularity. There is nothing really strange happens from the physics perspective, though there are interesting thing happens, that's a separate point, but here it is not real singularity. One can get rid of this coordinate singularity with the suitable coordinate system. We will come back to this point. We will investigate r is equal to 2m a little more carefully. It requires more attention, because there is an event horizon present or black hole present at that location. But let's see the Riemann curvature has no singularity at r is equal to 2m, because we are solving the vacuum field equation. The source-free solution is what we have obtained. That means that the Ricci tensor is 0, so is Einstein tensor. It is simply is the idea of a source-free solution, and so is the Ricci scalar or scalar curvature is going to 0. So the only non-zero component is actually a Riemann curvature tensor, so that which is doesn't go to 0 even if there is no source present, and that is a measure of our curvature. But actually we measure is not Riemann curvature or curvature scalar. What we can construct is a contraction of a Riemann tensor with all its indices, and we obtain a quantity which is 48m square r to the power 6. So this is well behaved at r is equal to 2m and has a singular point at r tends to 0, and that is what we call is a curvature singularity at r is equal to 0. Let us study the motion of test particle. The idea of test particle means the quantity which you are putting there is sufficiently small so that it does not disturb the background geometry, and which freely moves without disturbing the space-time structure. So we can study this using a simple Lagrangian concept, which we have already done. So I will just briefly explain and take the result straight away. So what we have is a Lagrangian. ds square itself has act as a Lagrangian with the 4 velocity ua is equal to t dot, r dot, theta dot and phi dot. So this is a 4 velocity of the particle, and then this is a Lagrangian which we have. Then we can use Euler-Lagrange equation to get the equation of motion or geodesic equation. So first we use a simplification because of the spherical symmetry. We can take theta to be pi by 2 and theta dot is equal to 0, theta double dot is equal to 0. Because of the spherical symmetry, theta is equal to pi by 2 has a symmetry, and any plane can be considered as an equatorial plane. Once we make this assumption, we get a simplified Lagrangian which has a 3 degree of freedom, t, r, and phi dot. So we have to solve this. We need a 3 equation of motion. First, we identified immediately there are 2 Killing vectors, one corresponding to time translation and another corresponds to translation along phi. In both cases, the metric remains invariant, and then we have a conserved quantity. In other words, you can see that the Lagrangian is absent of these generalized coordinate, and corresponding generalized momenta is conserved. So what we have is a dl by dt dot, which we call equal to E, and dl by d phi dot is equal to minus Lz. Earlier I have not used minus sign. It is used here just to get cleaner picture of this negative sign is coming because of the metric signature. One may or may not use it. One can either way get the equation of motion without too much worrying about the minus sign. Now from the Lagrangian, we can simply calculate this. What we get, 1 minus 2m by r t dot is equal to E, which is constant. On the other side, we get r square phi dot is equal to Lz. We can use this equation immediately, write to t dot equation and phi dot equation. That means these two equation of motions are decoupled and solved. So what we have is a t dot is equal to E by 1 minus 2m by r, and phi dot is equal to Lz by r square. Now you see that this blows up at r is equal to 2m. That simply means that we cannot use this coordinate system to study the equation of motion very close to r is equal to 2m. Then we have to use a suitable coordinate system which doesn't have a coordinate singularity at r is equal to 2m. And that we will do later in the course to demonstrate that there is nothing wrong with the geometry at r is equal to 2m. It's just a coordinate artifact. Now the third conserved quantity is the Lagrangian itself, that we know that we have set UA is equal to 1 for a time like a particle. That means that the particle is moving along a time-like curve with the tangent time-like unit vector. So with this constraint, we get 1 is equal to 1 minus 2m by r t dot square minus 1 by 1 minus 2m by r dot square minus r square phi dot square. So here also what we can do is we can replace t dot and phi dot from the earlier equation which we have obtained, that is t dot is equal to E by 1 minus 2m by r, and phi dot is equal to Lz by r square. So once we do that, we can simply get the equation only in terms of r dot and r. That means that the radial equation can be completely decoupled from the other equation. So this is what we means that the decoupling the equation of motion. It is possible because of conserved quantities. Now, once we have this, we can immediately rewrite r dot in terms of the constant. So we get the r equation of state. The intermediate step I have written, you simply interchange and then obtain r dot square is equal to 1 minus 2m by r plus E square minus Lz square by r square into 1 minus 2m by r. So this is what we call is a radial equation. That is, we can simplify it. These two factors are common, and then what we get is r dot square is equal to E square minus 1 minus 2m by r into 1 plus Lz square by r square. So this is what we call is a radial equation. The radial geodesic equation now simply can be written as r dot is equal to epsilon into square root of E square minus 1 minus 2m by r into 1 plus Lz square by r square. This epsilon takes the value of plus or minus 1. The plus 1 means the increasing radius. that means it is going outwards, minus means ingoing into the black hole, and that is what we call is epsilon is a direction along which with the radial motion is directed. So once we have this, we call this is a equation of motion is of the form that it is written as a square root of E square minus V square, where the radial effective potential in this case is given by V square into 1 minus 2m by r, 1 minus Lz square by r square. So this now we call is a effective radial motion. Now you can ask me, why do you call it effective one-dimensional potential? You can simply take the second derivative and write the complete radial equation. Then you will see that it can be written as a Newtonian one-dimensional force equation. R double dot is equal to a gradient of a potential, and that potential is given by here. One doesn't go through the entire exercise. One simply borrows the result from the classical mechanics course and say that the radial equation, if it is written of this form, then the V is simply an effective potential. And from that analogy, we have a radial effective potential. V square is given by 1 minus 2m by r into 1 plus Lz square by r square. Now, simply for comparison, we can do a similar thing with the Keplerian problem. That means that you take a Lagrangian of a Kepler problem, that is kinetic energy in the polar coordinate minus potential. Potential is minus some gm by r, that is potential due to the point mass at origin. Do the same trick and you would get a radial equation with the potential 1 minus 2m by r Lz square by r square. Now note that this one here has no specific significance. I simply added it in the Newtonian mechanics. You won't actually get it. Value of one constant added to the potential does not make any sense. So does this potential has a 1 here. So which is simply coming from the expansion, you would get this 1, and for comparison can add anything to the constant value to the potential that will not affect the equation of motion. I am exploiting this to just to add 1 here to make it look similar and to compare their values. In principle, either you can both place keep 1 or both place remove 1. It does not matter. Potential can have any constant added to it. It does not going to change the equation of motion. Let's have a look at some of the plots of the potential as to see how does work. So here we have an effective potential for comparison between the Newtonian, this is the dashed line, it's a Kepler problem with Lz is equal to 2, and this solid line corresponds to Schwarzschild case. We have seen earlier that the effective potential in the case of Kepler problem has two terms. One is simply minus m by r, and the other term is L square by r square together, which would generate a minima, and it is possible to have a circular orbit at every point, every location, and every Lz in the Keplerian problem. However, in this case, you can see when Lz is equal to 2, there is no Keplerian orbit. The particle would simply go and fall into the black hole, and there is no stable circular orbit in this case. So that is a glaring differences at this stage between the Newtonian and the Schwarzschild case. At very large distances, both these potential match, and that is what we know that when the distance is very large, the Schwarzschild solution can be approximated to the Keplerian problem. Let's look at the more potential. Here is a second case where you increase the Lz little larger. Lz basically means the angular velocity, that is the angular momentum you are supplying. The earlier case, angular momentum supplied to the particle was so small that it would simply bump into the black hole. In this case, angular momentum is a little larger, so that it would start going in a circular orbit at some distance rc. Now the difference again is that in the Schwarzschild case, when you have a very small angular momentum, particle would simply fall into the black hole, which does not happen in the Keplerian problem. Even if a small angular momentum is there, the particle would simply not fall into r is equal to 0, that because it has to conserve the angular momentum. Here also you have to conserve angular momentum. However, the particle falls into the black hole, and once things goes into the black hole, we do not know what happens to it, and that is reflected here. Now, in this case, angular momentum is large enough so that the particle doesn't simply fall into it, it can go into circular orbit. Now, we see that there is a difference here. In the case of a Newtonian or a Keplerian problem, you have a one minima at a given point and there is nothing else. Now, when you look at the Schwarzschild case, you have a one minima and then it goes over to obtain a maxima and then it falls on. That means that if you leave a particle with an energy somewhere here, it would simply go and fall into the black hole. On the other hand, if you leave a particle at this point, it would be simply going in an elliptical orbit, and if you leave the particle here at the minima, it would be going in the circular orbit. And now you see that at this point, circular orbit is possible. However, it will not be stable. There is an unstable circular orbit which would simply fall this side and then it gone into the black hole. If it falls into this side, then it would be simply going in a elliptical orbit around the point mass. In this case, I have simply plotted the t different values of the potential and including the Kepler potential. Kepler potential is simply way too far away. You can see the distances here goes from nearly from 2.5 m to the 20 m. It's very close to the black hole. So you expect that the Newtonian theory will not give you the correct equation of motion. There is enough relativistic correction need to be added, and the relativistic potential looks like this. All of them have an unstable point and a stable point somewhere here. And when it comes to this green curve, it has only unstable point, and that any particle orbit beyond that would be simply falling into the black hole. So that is what we call is a last stable circular orbit. Let's do it a more careful analysis about the radial stability of a particle motion in the Schwarzschild geometry. Let's first look at the Newtonian potential. What we have is a Vk square, which we have said is I have added 1 here. That's not going to change anything. 1 minus 2m by r plus Lz square by r square. For circular orbit, we need a condition that the first derivative of potential with respect to r is 0, and then we immediately get the condition Rc, the location at which circular orbit is there, would be Lz square by m. Now, once you can put back this Lz in terms of m and r, you can get the exact location in terms of m and Lz. Now, important thing here to notice is that you take the second derivative of the potential with respect to r and put r is equal to Rc coming from this, and then you would see that this is always positive. That means it is stable. That means in the Keplerian orbit, given Lz non-zero, you can always have a stable circular orbit at given Rc, which is given by Lz square by m. Now let us look at the Schwarzschild case. This is because of the one extra term. So you have these. This doesn't matter. This and this, which is present in the Newtonian case. And then you have a last term, which is 2m Lz square by r cube. Now we have, if you're familiar with what is called the Bertrand theorem, it says that in the case of central force problem, there are only two potential, which gives the stable circular orbit at each point. They are 1 by r, that is a Keplerian, which we have seen here. Other is a simple harmonic. So other than that, any other potential will not give you stable circular orbit at every point in the space. So this means that we are losing that because of adding this small term. So one way is to find out the approximate solutions by taking this quantity to small, and you can perturb and get the solution to the relativistic case. However, we are not interested. Let us look at what happens to the exact potential by looking at what happens to the maximas of what happens to optimum points of this potential. We can find out the dV by dr, which we get is a bit of a second order equation in M and Lz, which we can solve. It's not a rocket science to solve this. We simply have RC is Lz square plus or minus Lz square root of Lz square minus 12m square by 2m. Now we see that we have no solution to this when Lz square is less than 2m. That means these things becomes complex and the radial coordinate cannot be complex and the solution cannot be accepted. That means that the time-like circular orbit will not exist when Lz square is less than 2m. That is the last orbit which we have seen, and that is what leads to the what you call the last stable circular orbit. Let's take Lz to the value. Let's take that limiting value and see what happens to our second derivative, whether it is stable or unstable. We can find out that, and we get Lz is equal to 2 root 3m, and we find that Rc becomes 6m. That is called the last stable circular orbit. Once we put this, we see that the second derivative of a potential when this condition is applied, when r going to 6m and Lz square going to 12m square, it goes to 0. So it's a point of inflation. So this is where you have the unstable orbit, or it is a marginally stable orbit. It will no longer exist when r is less than 2m. So that is why it is called the last stable circular orbit. We do not have any circular or anything which has angular momentum less than that would eventually falling into the black hole, cannot have a sustained circular orbit at that location. So anything inside r is equal to 2m would eventually fall into the black hole. Now we can extend our study to null geodesics. That is what we have is a propagation of light going in the Schwarzschild geometry. This should not come as a surprise, as light follows its own trajectory, which is different from straight line. Now you have a space-time curvature in which null geodesics are also affected. This can be easily done with the same formalism. Only difference is that now the Lagrangian, which we are considered as a UA, that is a dot product or the tangent vector, will have to be 0 for the light, and it is 1 for the time light, and minus 1 for the space light. We are not interested in space light. Now the third conserved quantity is simply obtained by setting UA, that is for velocity, is equal to null or has a dot product 0. The rest of the calculation goes through. We can take theta is equal to pi by 2 plane, and theta dot is equal to 0, theta double dot is equal to 0, and then we get the Lagrangian, which is 0 in this case. Now the first equation comes from the conservation of energy. We get T dot, it is essentially same. And then the second comes from the z component of angular momentum, and that would give phi is equal to Lz by r square. So look at what happens to the light. So we have condition here is UA is equal to 0, and then this is a third conserved quantity which we have. Like before, we substitute for T dot and phi dot from the earlier equation of motion, and what we get is r dot square divided by 1 minus 2m by r is equal to E square by 1 minus 2m by r minus Lz square by r square, and the radial equation can be simply written as r dot square is equal to E square minus Lz square r square into 1 minus 2m by r. There is one term is missing from the time-like condition. That is what we have is a much simplified equation. Assuming the radial equation, we can write down the effective potential for the radial light trajectory. We have V square for null is equal to Lz square by r square into 1 minus 2m. In this case, conditions is rather simple. To find out the circular null geodesic, all we have to do is set the first derivative of the potential is 0, and that turns out to be 2Lz square 3m minus r divided by r to the power 4. So this is equal to 0 simply means that RC is equal to 2m. That means when r is equal to 2m, you can have a circular null geodesy. Let's look at the stability of this equation, and we see that when this derivative is taken, all we get is 1 minus 2m by r into r square. Okay, we can take the second derivative of the potential, and that turns out to be this expression Lz squared divided by r to the power 5 4m minus r. Now when you put r is equal to 3m, that is where we have the maxima. We see that the second derivative is going to be negative, and that means that the circular orbit of a light or photon is unstable at r is equal to 3m. Let's look at this effective potential for various values of Lz. You can clearly see that it has a peak, that is means that it is unstable and it doesn't depend on Lz. For any Lz, there is a circular orbit at r is equal to 3m, and that is unstable because it is a maxima, so it will roll over, and that is what we have found out from the exact calculation, and that is what it represents, that we can have a light going in a circular orbit around the Schwarzschild black hole at r is equal to 3m, and that is essentially a difference again between the relativistic and Newtonian calculation. In Newtonian gravity, light is not affected, but in the case of Einstein's theory, the light is not only affected around a point mass at r is equal to 3m, it starts going in a circular orbit. Now let's summarize the Schwarzschild geometry. For the test particle motion, we have a point at r is equal to 0 where we have a curvature singularity, and that we try to avoid. But at r is equal to 2m, we have what you call is a coordinate singularity or black hole, because we will define now what is a black hole and event horizon, and then we will see that whatever inside the black hole, nothing can come out, and eventually leading the singularity inside. It does not affect the points outside. At r is equal to 3m, we have a light going in a circular orbit, and at r is equal to 6m, we have a time-like particles will be able to go in a circular orbit. Inside this particle cannot go in a circular orbit, and they will eventually have to fall into the black hole, and that is what it says. Large stable circular orbit is at r is equal to 6m. Now when r is much greater than m, around 100 or 200 m, then what we have is a Newtonian gravity. General theory of relativity or the Schwarzschild solution simply matches with the Newtonian theory with the point mass. Let's take an example of sun. We have a mass about 10 to the power 30 kgs. When converted into distances, it comes about 1.5 kilometer. So that is what you have as a solar mass in terms of the distance. You can calculate in time and all that thing, but distance seems to be much easier unit to understand. And here we are not writing distance in terms of mass, we are writing other way around. We are writing mass in terms of distance, and that is about 1.5 kilometer. Now when come to that, Schwarzschild radius for sun would be around 3 kilometer, and that is very small compared to the size of sun. Sun's radius is almost close to the distance from Earth to Moon, and that is about a few million meters. Now we have r is equal to 3m and r is equal to 6m, last stable circular orbit. And when it comes to planetary motions, we have various planets. The Mercury is one which is affected most by relativistic correction, and that we will calculate in the coming lectures. First three tests of Einstein's theory, When it comes to Earth, the distance is so large that it is very well approximated with the Newtonian calculations, and one don't have to worry about Einstein's equation. So this is essentially is a summary of the geometry when viewed from the motion of particle, both light and time-like around the Schwarzschild geometry. It will stop here and continue in the next lecture.